And our flight back to Joint Base Andrews was extended by an hour as we dodged major storms over Virginia. The boss gave us one last surprise. Despite monsoon-type conditions on the tarmac, I mean, it was awful, awful rain. But the president emerged, saluted the military personnel at the bottom of the gate, and wearing only his iconic Make America Great Again hat, in red, of course, and an overcoat, he beelined right over to us. It was absolutely pouring rain, but still, he took the time to respond to our questions. I was able to ask several. Here's part of the conversation.
That was a great trip to a fantastic place, the Commonwealth, Pennsylvania. The steelworkers are very happy. We did the tariffs. It's going to make them even more competitive. And it's turning out to be a great deal. I think it's going to be a fantastic deal. $17 billion is being invested for new steel mills, new everything, and it's going to be something special. So that was in honor of the steelworkers of Pennsylvania, and it was a fantastic time. We had a great day, and it is raining quite hard, but that's okay. How are you? Go ahead.
Sir, can you make Pennsylvania the steel capital of the world again?
I think that's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. Not much. We just had $17 billion given. And again, we're going to have control in the U.S. It's going to be a USA deal. The board is controlled. More importantly, the money's built, it's spent on the facilities. You can't take them and leave and let's put them in a boat. Somebody said, well, what about that? Supposing they leave. Well, the money's invested on on brick and mortar. You can't lift it up and take it. But I think much more importantly, that's going to be a great partnership. And the company Nippon is coming in with $17 billion plus. So it's going to be fantastic for all steelworkers.
And then I got my own little personal shout out. Look, I appreciate when the president looks you in the eye and says, hey, I like this guy over here. Check this out.
And, I rejected this about 4 times now. And when they finally got it right, I liked it a lot. And you could see how happy the steelworkers were. More importantly, you could see from the union standpoint, the union loved it.
It means thousands of jobs in Pennsylvania, right?
That's many thousands of jobs.
The state of Pennsylvania going forward.
I like this man.
Were you aware?
He was pretty nice. Had the opportunity to ask some other questions later on about the G7 summit coming up, which often focuses on international peace and security. And, of course, it'll be on tariffs because it's going to be in Canada this year, in Alberta, something that Donald Trump has been leading the way on, hands down, right? Security. But it's going to be hosted in Alberta by Mark Carney, the raging liberal who just took over as Canada's prime minister. I doubt he'll be as gracious to Trump as Trump was to him on Friday night. Listen to this.
Going to Canada, Mark Carney up there obviously has a different view of the world than you do. When it comes to energy, clearly, what's your message going to be at G7 here in a couple weeks?
Well, it's in Canada, and he's a very nice guy, by the way, Mark Carney. I think he's really a very nice person, and we've had some good talks. We'll see what happens.
Mark Carney's a very nice person. Sounds a little different than what we've heard in the past. Whatever does happen, at least we can rest assured that we won't be embarrassed by our president this time around, thankfully, like we were when Joe Biden wandered around the G7. Some of you recall this, of course, having to be redirected by the world leaders like Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni all weekend as he wandered around in a daze. And then I was able to share this special moment with the president before he departed back to the White House. One last clip. Here it is.
I would suggest you all get out of the rain now. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good time. Thank you. Come here.
Thank you.
Who are you with?
And there you have it. Who are you with? Real America's Voice, and special thanks to Real America's Voice for getting me out on that little adventure, filling in for my good friend Brian Glenn. A pleasure and a privilege. I want to turn your attention to one more question that was asked during that rain-indulged tarmac conversation. Donald Trump sticking up for Elon Musk. As you know, just before that, earlier that day, he had talked to Elon and he had departed the White House after 130 days. That's after the New York Times reported that Musk was taking a jaw-dropping amount of drugs during his tenure at DOGE, something Musk has denied and something that Trump apparently doesn't care much about. Listen.
Were you aware of Elon Musk's regular drug use?
No, I wasn't. I think he's fantastic. I think Elon is a fantastic guy. And
are you troubled by these reports?
I'm not troubled by anything with Elon. I think he's fantastic. Did a great job. And, DOGE continues, and by the time it's finished, we'll have numbers that'll knock your socks off. It's going to be, he did a fantastic job, and he didn't need it. He didn't need to do it.
Yeah, he didn't need to do it. Musk says the New York Times is lying through their teeth. And you know what? Drugs or no drugs, Donald Trump is right. What Musk has done is incredible, or historic, or at least it's supposed to be. That is, if the Republicans can get their act together and codify these historic DOGE spending cuts. Musk finished out his last week as a temporary government employee, and I'm wondering if his 130 days will actually make a difference toward the eye-popping amount of debt the United States is piled up and is bound to cave in under one day. And that's where I want to focus for the rest of this segment. The GOP, the so-called party of fiscal responsibility, the party that's supposed to stand for small government, low taxes, and the American dream, is letting us down. Again, I'm sick and tired of watching the Republican establishment twiddle their thumbs while our nation drowns in a sea of red ink. America's not the wealthiest nation on earth. We are the poorest. We have $36 trillion of debt. We are the poorest nation by definition. We're a nation living on borrowed time, maxing out Uncle Sam's credit card while the GOP is sitting there sipping their D.C. cocktails, doing nothing to stop the bleeding. Let's get real for a second. When President Trump swept back into the White House, we had hope, real hope. The man brought a wrecking ball to the swamp, and for a minute there, it looked like we might actually drain it. He brought in Elon Musk to restore fiscal sanity, the guy who builds rockets, reinvents cars, and runs companies as efficiently as it gets. He was ready to bring the same ruthless efficiency to the federal government with DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. It was a bold idea, a MAGA idea. Make government work for the people again. But what did the GOP do thus far? Nothing, really. They've hemmed, they've hawed, and now the Elon's stepping back. I'm starting to wonder, did we just let our best chance, our best last chance to fix this mess slip through our fingers? The White House acknowledged Elon's service on his last day as a temporary government employee. Here's President Trump outlining just a sample of the kind of insanity Elon found during that 130 days. Listen.
Just as an example, DOGE canceled $101 million for DEI contracts at the Department of Education, $101 million, and that was just a small section of the Department of Education, $59 million for illegal alien hotel rooms in New York City, and the landlord never made the kind of money that he made in the last short period of time. $59 million to a hotel in New York City, $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. Does anyone know about Burma? $42 million for social and behavioral change in Uganda. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. I can say it's $2 billion to Stacey Abrams and her environmental movement. There was $100 in the account, and all of a sudden they found $2 billion in the account. And I assume that's being looked at. I don't know.
Yeah. The Biden administration spent $7 trillion. There's lots where that came from, and it's going to take more than 130 days to right this ship. When Musk addressed the nation, he offered an optimistic outlook on his departure. Here's what he said.
But this is not the end of DOGE, but really the beginning. My time as a special government employee necessarily had to end. It was a limited time thing. It's 134 days, I believe, which ends in a few days. So that it comes with a time limit. But the DOGE team will only grow stronger over time. The DOGE influence will only grow stronger. I'd liken it to sort of Buddhism. It's like a way of life. So it is permeating throughout the government, and I'm confident that over time we'll see $1 trillion of savings and a reduction in $1 trillion of waste and fraud reduction.
Got to be honest, I'm not as optimistic. I want to be. I do. But if history teaches us anything, it's that, well, our elected leaders don't have the balls, frankly, to see this through. Even most recently, Senator Rand Paul introduced an amendment to codify DOGE foreign aid cuts, claw back the funds that were accomplishing, well, God only knows what over at USAID, and 26 Republican senators voted against it. I'm talking Lindsey Graham, Lisa Murkowski, Tom Tillis, James Lankford, Mitch McConnell, even the likes of Chuck Grassley and, yes, Tim Scott. Why? Why? I need answers. The American people need to know why the GOP can't get serious about this. We need to know why less than 9% of the general U.S. population has over $1 million net worth, but over half of Congress are multimillionaires. Why is Tim Scott shooting down an amendment like that and then saying this on national television?
Mr. Senator, how do you see the future of DOGE without Musk?
Well, first, let's thank Elon Musk for his amazing service to the American people. He has done what no one else has done before, found hundreds of billions of dollars of cuts and waste, fraud, and abuse. No more 300-year-olds getting Social Security checks because of Elon Musk. Thank God that President Trump had the wisdom to put Elon in place. We will make sure that those cuts are permanent in our spending packages going forward. We need less spending from the American government and more Americans having their own money to make their decisions.
Really? This is the performative kind of BS I'm talking about. These guys giving Elon Musk a standing ovation. Woo. Way to go, Elon, while refusing to vote on a single DOGE cut. I mean, seriously. $36 trillion is not just a number. It's a chain around the neck of every single American. It's $100,000 per citizen, $250,000 per taxpayer, and it's growing. Interest payments alone are projected to hit $1.7 trillion annually by 2035. That's more than we spend on defense and a whole lot of other things combined, folks. We're paying more to service our debt than to protect our borders. And what's the GOP doing about it? Well, they're busy posturing for cable news, fighting over who gets the best committee seat, or pandering to their corporate donors to actually take a stand. We're expecting a rescissions package on Capitol Hill, maybe as soon as tomorrow. We'll see what happens then, but we're going to keep talking about this. We're going to hold their feet to the fire. We know what the Democrats are going to do. But it's the Republicans I'm holding their feet to the fire, because we're not playing around anymore. We're only guaranteed 4 years. We need our elected officials. We need the people in Congress working every second if we're going to move the needle on this. It's time to speak up and be heard. Call your congressman, and I mean it. Call your senator, and I mean it. Don't sit quietly by. Elon's gone. What are we really doing here to cut spending? We'll keep a close eye. Coming up after the break, a 45-year-old illegal alien currently being held on suspicion of first-degree murder and much more after committing a terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, throwing Molotov cocktails at senior citizens. It's disgusting. We'll be right back with more. Well, as we've been talking about a good part of the day and ever since yesterday, on Sunday afternoon, 8 individuals were injured after a man shouting "Free Palestine" and more, hurling incendiary devices, we call them Molotov cocktails, into the crowd during a demonstration at Boulder, Colorado's Pearl Street Mall. It was held in support of the Israeli hostages still being held in Gaza ever since October the 7th, 2023. The suspect, now in custody, identified as 45-year-old Mohammed Sabri Soliman, an illegal immigrant from Egypt. That's right, an Egyptian citizen. According to authorities, the victims included 4 women and 4 men between the age of 52 and 88. All were taken to the hospital, one still in critical condition. The attack took place in the Pearl Street Mall during an event organized by Run for Their Lives, an organization devoted to drawing attention to the hostages seized in the aftermath of Hamas's 2023 attack on Israel. Kash Patel and the FBI have described this event as nothing short of a targeted terror attack, because it is. And we're seeing this all around America. Take the shooting of the 2 Israeli embassy staffers recently outside their get-together in Washington, D.C., gunned down by a man with no remorse and who also shouted "Free Palestine" as he was being taken away. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West recently released a new article titled "The Leftist Jihadist Cult of Hate and Death." And you know what? That's exactly what these people are. Something must be done to get these sick, twisted individuals out of the country, and soon. Joining me is the former Congressman and Executive Director at the American Constitutional Rights Union, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Colonel, nice to see you. Look, your essay, spot on. But how many of these people are out there? And, you know, Caroline Levitt was asked this. How many sleeper cells, how many Islamic terrorists like this waiting just to rise up and burn people to death or shoot them or run over them with a car? It's just, it's grotesque. Where do you want to start?
Well, it's good to be with you, Steve. And there are countless numbers of these individuals that are out there. And once again, our hearts go out to the families of those who were affected by this horrendous and heinous terrorist attack there in Boulder, Colorado. But when you hear leftists continue to talk about that, you know, shouting "Free Palestine" and shouting Intifada is just a matter of free speech. No, it's not. It's a matter of supporting a terrorist organization and their activities. When you see what is happening on these college and university campuses, such as Harvard, where they continue to want to import in these students that are inciting violence in our country and against certain individuals, certain citizens. Look, Hamas was wrong in what they did on October the 7th. Israel is a sovereign nation. They should be able to protect themselves, but we cannot have these terrorist sleeper cells that were allowed infiltration into our country during the previous administration, like we just saw with the person that committed that heinous act just yesterday.
Yeah, you know, he had overstayed a visitor visa, and they said, well, okay, we'll give you a work visa. I mean, oh, you broke the first rule, so, you know, you'll tell you what, here's an extension, no big deal. This kind of attitude is, you know, and it takes me back to the whole auto pen question, Colonel, because as Donald Trump has been pointing out a lot lately, Joe Biden was never for open borders. Joe Biden was never for this chaos and just letting people in, you know, without being vetted just to inflict harm on America. That was never Joe Biden. So the question is, who was really behind it? Who was really behind it? That's what Americans want to know. That's what I want to know. And I bet you do, too.
Oh, absolutely so. And it's these leftists. And like I said, for whatever reason, they have found simpatico with Islamic jihadists. Look, the 9/11 conspirators were also people that overstayed a visa, student visas. So how many people do we have here in the United States of America that overstay student visas? And when you hear the left not wanting to support ICE and not wanting to allow them to come in and get these individuals off of our streets, when you have these activist judges in these district courts that are going around trying to stymie the Trump administration and slow down the process, saying that these people who came into our country illegally and committing criminal acts such as what we saw yesterday, they deserve some type of due process. This is a terrorist attack. This guy is a member of a terrorist organization as far as I'm concerned, and he conducted an act thereof against the American people. He should find himself in Guantanamo Bay, if anything else. But he should not be going through a court system and be given all types of constitutional rights and privileges and have some ACLU appointed defense attorney.
You know, that's interesting because I thought the right punishment was just to burn him at the stake. But hey, maybe that's just a little too harsh, but considering the type of attack here. I do want to switch gears just for a moment here. I understand that you're currently in Ruston, Virginia, at the Young Americas Foundation headquarters, gearing up to travel with 25 conservative college kids to Normandy, France.
Yes.
We were talking about this in the break. You're going to the beaches of Normandy to mark the D-Day anniversary of something I've always wanted to do. I'm proud of you, Colonel. Tell me about the trip.
Well, thank you so very much. I challenged the leadership of YAF last year at a summer conference to, select some very qualified students that we can take over and make sure that the legacy of those men who stormed the beaches, who jumped into those drop zones, should not be forgotten. And I'm so proud of what Young America's Foundation, one of the oldest campus conservative organizations, has done in getting these students together. And they will also get a chance to see the old Colonel jump on June the 5th into St. Martin de Verreville, which was one of the villages that the men of the 101st liberated 81 years ago. So we have got to do everything to do as what was said, the motto of the 101st, to make sure we have the rendezvous with destiny and the right destiny for the United States. And that means protecting and preserving our history.
So I want to make sure I heard you right, Colonel. You're going to jump out of a perfectly good airplane.
Actually, I'll be jumping out of the exact same C-47 aircraft that flew 81 years ago, just like I did last year. And what an honor to be on that aircraft and know what it did and what that aircraft and those pilots survived and what those paratroopers did. So as a former paratrooper, this is a great honor for me. And it's great that I will share it with 25 young campus conservatives, college students.
What an education for them. Honestly, there's an experience they'll carry for the rest of their lives. What a great opportunity for them. And I tip my hat to you for hosting them and then jumping out of a plane saying, "This is how it's done, kids." Nice work, Colonel. Nice seeing you.
Thank you. God bless.
Greatly appreciate it. God bless you, my friend. That's pretty cool, right? I'd go jump out of an airplane with him. I wouldn't do it normally, but with him, I'd probably do it. All right, up after the break and the ongoing dispute between the Trump administration and Harvard, a decision has been made by an activist federal judge that puts global interest before American security. No surprise there. More on that coming up on ABL. Now, recently in the ongoing dispute between the Trump administration and Harvard, well, U.S. federal judge Allison Burroughs sided with the Ivy League school, allowing the institution to continue certifying student visas for international applicants. A decision that's yet another prime example of judicial overreach and elite institutions putting global interests before our security, for American security. Harvard, which has increasingly become a hub of far-left ideology and foreign funding, has argued that President Trump's proposal would disrupt international exchange. But the real disruption is what's already happening on America's campuses, particularly Harvard: radical protests, anti-American propaganda, and foreign governments embedding themselves in academic institutions. This cannot stand, and it should not stand under President Trump. Joining me now to discuss this, senior research fellow at the Heritage Foundation Center for Education Policy, Dr. Jay Green. Doctor, thank you for being here. Look, the biggest tentacles of all come from the Belt and Road Initiative out of Beijing. And it's not just Harvard. It's small schools. It's Southern Illinois. It's Eastern Iowa. It's Western Washington. It's all these little schools all over as well. It's not just the big schools. Their tentacles reach far and wide into academia, don't they?
They do. We have 1.1 million foreign students in the U.S., of whom a quarter are from Communist China. So they're one of the largest groups, and we know from an independent report at Stanford that every graduate student from China had a minor in the national security apparatus in China, debriefing them for details on their research, for intellectual property, for national security secrets. And so there is a legitimate and severe security concern with such a large communist Chinese presence in American universities.
So I'm not real good with math, but if a quarter of those kids are Chinese, that's about 300,000, just shy. 300,000 that, if I'm reading these news articles correctly, Doctor, they are basically required by the Chinese Communist Party to be active spies on Americans at all levels, any place they can infiltrate, anything at all. Am I right or wrong?
And look, a lot of them are reluctant, but they often have very little choice in the matter. The Chinese government often pays their way here, has their family back at home, and so there's a lot of pressure on them to provide information, even if they're not eager as spies. And so I'm sympathetic to these foreign students, but we also have to be sympathetic to ourselves and our national interest, and we have to recognize the dangers that this can pose.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion we're too sympathetic to these foreign interests and not focused enough on our own protection. Look, this is happening daily. At the University of Michigan, 5 students there were found up at Camp Grayling, not far from where I call home, taking pictures, pretending to be journalists. And there were 5 Chinese students from Ann Arbor who had traveled about 2.5 hours to be at Camp Grayling, one of the biggest military bases in America and a huge training base. What are they taking pictures of? Why are they doing that? And where are they taking pictures, they being the infiltrators that we're unaware of, Doctor? That's the real question. Where are the pictures being taken and shipped back to Beijing and wherever else that we're unaware of?
Right. In addition to these Chinese security threats, we also have Middle East interests heavily influencing the nature of protests on campus, helping organize the protests. And so one of the problems we have there is with 1.1 million foreign students, the government can't keep track of all these students. They need the universities who are hosting the students to enforce rules, report misconduct or criminal activity so that the government can revoke their visas. But the universities have been behaving like sanctuary cities and refusing to provide that information. And that's made it very hard for the government to distinguish between bad acting foreign students and productive, well-behaving foreign students, because the universities are shielding the bad acting ones.
Yeah, let me ask you this, a bit of tea leaves and a bit of, I don't know, just looking into the crystal ball. I don't see how these universities continue to buck federal law. I don't see how they can continue to be winning cases where judges demand that they be funded even though they're violating federal law. I expect that at some point the Trump administration will prevail, but this slows down the process. What do you think about this lawfare? Where does it end up? I'll give you the last word.
Sure. So the universities are going to tend to win the first case because they pick the venue. But we'll have to see where this goes as it goes up to appeals and maybe Supreme Court. But even if Harvard wins in court, they will lose in politics and they will lose in policy because, for example, Harvard needs visas for those foreign students, and the Trump administration can deny visas without judicial review. That is not subject to judicial review, and so they can choke off the number of visas that come in. So even if Harvard wins in court, they lose.
Yeah, you wonder if some judge intervenes somewhere and says, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't have any judicial, any review or whatever." It's almost endless, Doctor, like 200 lawsuits against the Trump administration so far. I think the entire play here is to bog up the system, and it seems to be working to some extent. Doctor, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. All right, up after the break, Arizona State Senator Wendy Rogers is condemning the governor there, Katie Hobbs, for vetoing another Republican bill that would shine light on government-funded health care for illegal aliens. Of course, details straight ahead. Governor Katie Hobbs has vetoed another Republican-backed transparency bill that would have shown light on the cost of government-funded health care for illegal aliens. The bill had proposed that would happen. It was put out there by Senator Wendy Rogers, and it would have required hospitals in Arizona to include a section to indicate if they are lawfully present in the U.S. The bill also required DHS to submit annual reports numbering the amount of non-citizens receiving care. The report would then address how uncompensated care impacts the ability to provide services to the lawful Arizona citizens. In response, Arizona State Senator Wendy Rogers has condemned Governor Katie Hobbs for slapping Arizona taxpayers in the face just because they demand accountability and transparency from state government, which we all should do. Here to discuss more on it is the senator herself, Wendy Rogers. Nice to see you, Senator. It's a nice step in the right direction, but you get knocked down again. What is the makeup of the state legislature in Arizona? Don't you have the advantage in the state Senate?
Yes, we do. Thanks, Steve, for having me on. It's hot and rainy here, actually, down near the Capitol. I'm from Flagstaff. I represent a huge rural swath of the state, and they sent me to Phoenix to run this and many other bills. This one, as you said, provides transparency, and it doesn't stipulate that the individual receiving care has to say if he or she is a citizen. In fact, you don't even have to check that box. But this is an accountancy bill. Of course, the narrative of the left is that it's racist and unfair. And the day she vetoed this bill of mine, she vetoed 35 bills in one day. She's the veto queen. She's vetoed 3 bills, or rather signed 3 of mine and vetoed 11. But overall, she's vetoed well over 200 bills. It's horrible.
35 bills in a single day.
Yes.
Yeah, that's got to be some sort of a record.
It is. And to your point, we do have a small majority in the Arizona Senate. We have 17 Republicans out of 30. And in the Arizona State House, I think we have a 2-vote majority. But what happens is, as with my bills, I work them hard, hear all the testimony in committee. It's quite the route, to get these bills through. And I will get them in many cases through the Arizona Senate and the Arizona State House, and then she just vetoes them. So we really need to replace her with Congressman Andy Biggs. Big rally for him a couple of days ago in Phoenix, and well over 1,000 attended.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is he the one leading in the polls? He's not the only Republican in the race, right?
Right. President Trump gave sort of a tacit endorsement to another gal who really doesn't have any public service experience the way Andy does. And I haven't met one person who's voting for her, honestly. And yes, it's 16 months away. But like the Democrats, we have to congeal and move forward as a united presence here to get Andy in office. He's a winsome candidate.
So, Arizona, like all other swing states, went into Trump's column on November 5th, 2024. It was a big night, obviously. It shows that Arizona can win a statewide race for the Republicans. Disappointments in the Senate races over the last couple of cycles, but hope statewide. What's it going to take for Andy Biggs to get over the top? I'm going to have him on the program here in a couple of days. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are about Congressman Biggs winning the governor's seat.
Well, he's a busy guy. I mean, he's a stalwart conservative Republican congressman, and so he needs to raise money, though, to run a statewide race for governor. So I would appeal to the audience to donate to him, BiggsForAZ.com, and help him out, because he's got the background of having been an attorney, a congressman, and he was the president of our Arizona Senate before my time. So I know him. He's a person of great character, and he stands for what's right. And this is hard sometimes. He and I have talked about this.
Sure.
When everyone's against you, I've had kind of a tough time here in the Arizona Senate. And people coming after me, stalking me, threatening my life, all these kinds of things. You have to stand for what is right.
There you go. Senator Wendy Rogers from Arizona, we appreciate you being here. Keep putting those bills out there. Make Katie Hobbs veto them and stand on, whatever it is she stands for. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, tax day may have passed, but for millions of Americans, the real trouble is it's just beginning. If you missed the April 15th deadline or still owe back taxes, the IRS is ramping up enforcement. Every day you wait only makes things worse. With over 5,000 new tax liens filed daily and tools like property seizures, bank levies, and wage garnishments, the IRS is applying pressure at levels we haven't seen in years. Increased administrative scrutiny means collections are moving fast. The good news? There's still time for Tax Network USA to help you. Self-employed or business owner, if your books are a shambles, they've got it covered. Tax Network USA specializes in cleaning up financial chaos and getting you back on track fast. Even after the deadline, it's not too late to regain your control. Your consultation free Acting now could stop penalties, threatening letters, and surprise levies before they even happen. Call 1-800-905-8000 or visit tnusa.com/RAV. You may have missed the April 15th deadline, but you haven't run out of options. Let Tax Network USA help before the IRS makes the next move. Don't go anywhere. America's Voice Live will continue after a brief break. Of this, but I'll put it out there for you. Russian and Ukrainian delegates ended peace talks in just over an hour in Turkey earlier today. Both sides exchanging documents and agreeing to swap the bodies of more than 6,000 soldiers killed in action, as well as an exchange of prisoners of war. Expectations are low for ending the 3.5-year-old war after Ukraine attacked deep inside Russia on Sunday, damaging more than 40 Russian warplanes in the Arctic, Siberia, and the Far East, more than 4,300 miles from Ukraine. The operation fired over 450 drones, crippling nearly a third of Moscow's bomber fleet. It was a remarkable hit. Russian defenses downed 162 Ukrainian drones over 8 regions overnight, while Ukraine managed to down 52 of 880 Russian drones launched overnight. Here we now discuss this is Real America's Voice Chief White House Correspondent Brian Glenn, back from a few days that he took off. Brian, nice to see you.
Good to see you, Steve, by the way. Thanks for holding down the fort here at the White House while I was away. Good job.
Anytime you needed it. Mostly a quiet week, but we did have a pretty good ending, as you talked about, standing out there in the rain with the president. Good conversation, by the way.
But by the way, if our viewers don't know this, that is very uncharacteristic of the president to step off Air Force One in a tsunami of rain and go do a press gaggle. So I want to say props to President Trump for doing that, and you got the majority of time on that, which is really nice to see.
It worked out well, yeah. You know, and I think that your friends there in the press office, they'll take notice of that. They'll know that he talked to me, and they'll say, oh, they put me on the good list, right? They put me on, which is important. Always want to be on the good list. One of the president's priorities without question. He talked about it on the campaign trail leading up to November 5th. It's something that he really wants to get done. He wants this war between Russia and Ukraine to end. And it's frustrating to him in some ways, to the point that he's saying that Putin's not behaving well. He said Zelensky's not behaving well. And if you're not going to be serious, I'm not going to waste my time trying to negotiate a peace if you guys aren't going to play ball well. They're in Turkey today. But it comes after a massive attack inside Russia and a massive counterattack inside Ukraine. I mean, I don't know where we are here, Brian. I don't know if there's anything to be optimistic about.
I wish I had optimistic news for you, Steve, but I don't, because I don't trust either side. Each side says they, quote, want peace. They want a truce, but it doesn't seem like they're following up on what they want. And I think that you're right, though. President Trump did make that a campaign promise throughout the election cycle, that he would be the one to be the peacemaker between the two countries and come up with a solution. But so far, it's not because he didn't do it. He's tried. I don't know if they want it, to be completely brutally blunt with you. I'm not sure they want it. So if they don't want peace, and I'm at the point, Steve. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Both sides. And I'm at the point, Steve, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it. I don't care anymore. And I'm going to tell you why. There's people in Western North Carolina that is still looking for a place to stay. We have problems in our own country. We have, $1 trillion in debt. We've got this massive problem across this country in waste, fraud, and abuse. I'm more worried about our own government and our own people. Not to say that I want to see bloodshed continued in Ukraine and Russia. I don't. But, Steve, this drama just seems like every week we have this kind of a tug-of-war, a revolving door of who's setting peace talks, and I just don't trust any of them at this point.
I think a lot of people feel exactly the same way, Brian. It's like, okay, we've had this conversation. We've tried to get peace. All of a sudden, there's bombs raining in Kiev, or there's drones raining in Russia. I think you're right. Yeah. The problem that bothers a lot of people, though, that we see on social media, bothers me, is then you see the nightclubs in Ukraine that are packed, the people are partying. I'm like, really? This is a war zone, and this is, this is where our money is going that we can't account for, billions of dollars, and I think it frustrates people. I'll give you the last word.
Well, then you have Zelensky. I'm sorry, you have Lindsey Graham going over there and pretty much, I think, advocating for our more involvement with us. Why is there a need for them to stop? The conveyor belt of money will come there, and I've had people from Ukraine outside these black fence over there come up to me and say the amount of wealth that's now in these cities in Ukraine is unprecedented, and it's coming from the U.S. taxpayer. That money is coming straight from us to their pockets. Yes, some of it's going to the military. I'm not saying it's not, but there's so much corruption in that government that I just think we're all to the point where if we're going to end it, let's end it. But if not, Steve, let's move on.
Well, if they're not going to end the war, end funding the war. I mean, we cannot continue to fund this war, because when that much money flies around, it might be, it's supposed to go to the military. But when it's that much money, you never know where it's going. It's very hard to keep track of. Brian, thank you for being here as always. Welcome back.
Yep.
Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
There you have it. All right. This part of the program brought to you our good friends on Birch Gold. Anyhow, trying to move mountains. However, the administration is when they're trying to fix this country, it can also take your personal finances a different way. You might have to consider some different things. I mean, there's a lot of realignment coming. And that's why thousands of Americans are buying gold now from Birch Gold. Here are the facts. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 30%. Central banks are buying gold in record quantities, so demand doesn't seem to be subsiding at all. The real reset is on the horizon, where BRICS nations are looking to unseat the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency. You know that, of course. But you can find peace of mind in gold. Birch Gold makes it extremely easy to convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or you can even buy some to store in your home safe. Text America to 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free information kit on gold. There's no obligation, only useful information. With an A+ rating at the Better Business Bureau, tens of thousands of satisfied customers take control of protecting your savings today. Text America to 989898. Do that right now. You'll have peace of mind. After the break, we'll have a story that reminds us how wonderful America is, plus your answers to our America's Voice question of the day. What are your thoughts on the terror attack in Boulder, Colorado? Do you think it warrants less gun control laws for protection? Why or why not? Well, what makes America wonderful? We do this every day to put a smile on your face before you go on with the rest of your day, to show you just how great America is. How about this one? 16-year-old Violet Amon received special recognition from the American Red Cross for her courageous and life-saving actions. Why? Because while on a field trip for her leadership class, Violet noticed a woman choking. The class was doing holiday shopping for families in need when the incident occurred. An open room where no one knew what to do but Violet. Without hesitation, she sprang into action, calling for help and performing the Heimlich maneuver. Violet took CPR and first aid classes through her school, and due to her quick thinking, she was able to dislodge the object, save the woman's life. It's a testament to her abilities, and by being able to take action, she hopes to take these lessons into a future career in the healthcare field. Yeah, I tip my hat to these young people able to do something, spring into action when action is required. Good job. Well done, young lady. What are your thoughts on the terror attack in Boulder, Colorado? Our question of the day. Do you think that this warrants less gun control laws for protection? Why or why not? Do you think we need more guns out there? Trish Hicks, he was an illegal alien who could not get a gun legally, which is good. Sadly, he was in a blue state. No one could else defend themselves from his attacks. Yeah, but guns are legal in Colorado. Derek Detloff writes, in Colorado, yes. And Washington State and California and New York and Massachusetts. I need to know more. I guess I need to know more about the gun laws in Colorado. Guns aren't banned there, I don't think. Art Wilson, if everyone had a gun, there would not have been a terrorist attack. I agree with that. Tim Paul writes this. A skilled CPL holder could have shut him down a lot faster. Also true. Ronald Minton, or just shot the Molotov cocktail and he would have gone up in flames. That would have been a perfect end to that deal. Ronald Minton writes, it just proves that being a sanctuary city and state comes with its own problems. The illegals are basically given a key to the city. They use that key to take over in the name of religion. City officials do nothing but say they have the right to express themselves. All the more reason to deport these mongrels and deport the city-state officials who promote this propaganda. And Jan Doust, Ilo, it was sickening. That scumbag shouldn't have even been here. All right, we'll leave it there for today. Every day we do these questions. You can find it on my X account, on Facebook. You can find it on my social media posts. Make sure you follow me there. Join the movement. Be somebody. Tell your friends, hey, I'm with Gruber and Real America's Voice, and I love it. Why wouldn't you? Don't forget to start your broadcast day tomorrow with me right here on Real America's Voice. Steve Gruber Show kicks off at 6 o'clock Eastern every day, Monday through Friday. Good way to get your day kick-started. And then we'll be back for America's Voice Live. Have a great afternoon.